Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Are you recording yet, Jared?
We are recording.
This conference will now be recorded.
Great.
Can I go?
Thank you. Thank you all for being here and on this first experience on remote school committee. This school committee meeting on Tuesday, March 24th of 2020. Good evening to everyone. And as a preliminary matter, Mary Jules, Secretary of the Lynn School Committee, please permit me to confirm that all members and persons through Mary that are anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative, and Mary will take the roll. Member Castellanos?
Present.
Member Ford?
Present.
Member Capola?
Present.
Member Nicholson?
Present.
Member Gately?
Present.
Member Sadowite? Mayor McGee, present. Member Sadowite?
Present.
Yeah, when I call your name, could you please respond in the affirmative? Dr. Tutwiler?
Present.
P. Powers?
Present.
Deputy Ruggiero?
Present.
Kevin McHugh?
Present.
Attorney Myhouse? School Committee Secretary Mary Jules?
Present.
Is Attorney Myhouse?
Present.
He's present. Thank you. Again, this is me, Tom McGee, and I'd like to say good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. This open meeting of the Lynn School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in public accessible in a physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting on the city website, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of this meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Lynn School Department is convening by telephone, conference, video conference via the GoToMeeting platform as posted on the city's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by this recording. The meeting business and ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. As the chairman, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Mary Jules, the secretary of the school committee, will conduct the roll calls. Hopefully you can see over my shoulder the American flag, and I'm going to ask everyone to stand and join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30, Section 20B, an emergency meeting of the school committee will be held on Tuesday tonight, March 24th at 2020 at 6 p.m. via the GoToMeeting platform. Again, pursuant to Governor Baker's executive order, acting pursuant to the powers provided by Chapter 639 of the Acts of 1950 and Section 2A of Chapter 17, the Massachusetts General Laws, the meeting chambers will be closed to the public. However, the meeting will be made available to the public by adequate alternative means, that being Lynn Community Television and/or a video conference recording. With that, I would ask, as we go into the orders of business, that we would have a moment of silence in memoriam of Lauren M. Mazzetti, department head at English High on March 7th, 2020, passed away on March 7th, 2020. Dolores J. Starrett, retired school nurse on March 9th, 2020. And Tom Fisty, retired physical education teacher. Ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. So we have two bits of business that we're going to be dealing with tonight at this meeting. And first, and I'm going to open it up for discussion of the impact of the coronavirus on the City of Lynn School Department. And I think first what I'd like to do, because I know he's been very involved, as well as all of the administrators in the school department, Dr. Tutwiler, who can lay out where we're at and what the impact has been and what we're doing to move forward related to the students and to the school system in the City of Lynn. With that, I'd like to ask Dr. Tutwiler to begin a discussion.
Certainly. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. And sorry, I don't know why my camera isn't working. We worked yesterday during the trial run, but it was great to see everybody yesterday. Sorry I can't see you today. As you know, as everyone knows, this is an ever-evolving situation with many facets. What I wanted to do briefly is offer a snapshot of what has happened and then give a sense for where we're headed. To be clear, this is not going to be comprehensive, but it should give you a solid understanding of what's going on. Then I'm happy to answer any questions that folks might have. By way of quick reminder, we canceled classes on March 13th, but invited all staff to come in to prepare for what we were thinking could be a long-term cancellation. Right here, quickly, if I could just pause and celebrate the Lynn Public Schools professional family. In one day, they pulled together some really thoughtful and engaging resources for families. What is on the remote learning page for each school and continues to be updated, but most of it was created in one day. I saw and continue to see deep commitment and extraordinary creativity. Special shout out to the Lynn Public School staff. Prior to the 13th, we'd had some discussion on my team about the potential for a closure and what sorts of services would need to continue in that scenario. Thinking about the hierarchy of need, we wanted to make sure that we were still able to offer meals to students. That piece was pulled together pretty easily and continues at Marshall, English, Classical, and Lynn Tech, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 p.m. Prior to the, we also quickly, we also quickly assembled a set of resources for any student experiencing mental health or emotional challenges. There's been outreach to some families directly about those resources, but they're available to all currently on the district's website, as well as the frequently asked questions page. What was originally a 2-week local cancellation became a statewide 3-week cancellation by the governor's declaration. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has also weighed in and given guidance on some of the substantive pieces of the work that we do. Of particular importance, if we return, we know that the school year will end on the originally scheduled 185th day, which for us is Wednesday, June 24th. We also know at this point, as of yesterday, that the ELA MCAS for grades 10 and 3 through 8 has been postponed, not yet canceled, but postponed. No matter the scenario, we really want to make sure that we're staying connected with families. We have already structured an outreach protocol for special education liaisons to connect with families and students in their caseload. Essentially, they're making sure the families know where the resources are and answering questions about strategies with that individual student. We're in the process of structuring a larger outreach protocol, but you should know that the staff has been doing an amazing job creating content and connecting with students via social media and other platforms. It should also be known that we've posted an updated email contact for staff members organized by school, grade, and content on the district's website. We welcome families and students to reach out directly to their teachers, and that has been happening. As has often been said, this is a rapidly evolving situation, and there are lots of questions and new information coming out each day. To keep families informed, we've leveraged the all call. Families hear directly from me, but also from their school principal. We're leveraging social media, mostly Facebook, and there's a frequently asked questions link for both families and staff on the website with updated information. As everyone else is, we're watching the situation evolve, and at this point, I would be surprised if we were back in session on April 7th. We are planning accordingly, both for the scenario where the cancellation extends beyond 3 weeks, but also in the scenario where classes are canceled for the remainder of the year, which is a possibility. The scenario in and of itself raises lots of questions for people, and I don't know that right now is the time to address them all. I just want to assure you all that the work is already underway, and we're working hard to ensure that every detail is tended to, and the effort to ensure that students and families are supported is genuine. So this is a pretty quick high-level overview. I want to remind all that specific answers to questions can be found on the frequently asked questions link on the Lynn Public Schools website. Again, this is a very interesting time in which we find ourselves. I liken it to building a plane while it's in the air. I'm certain that there's no district that had a coronavirus plan at the ready. Nonetheless, staff is working hard, being thoughtful, and displaying extraordinary dedication to the health and safety of students first and foremost, but also to their learning. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tutwiler. And I'll just, before I go to questions, just unmute your phone and I'll take you as you unmute your phones. I can actually see as you unmute your phones. I want to just reiterate some of the things Dr. Tutwiler said, but more importantly, both Dr. Tutwiler and the administration and all the staff and faculty, in really within a day or two of the reality of the situation facing both the city of Lynn, but the Commonwealth and the country, really came together and established a protocol to close the schools down, create everyday foods availability for the students in the schools to grab and go, which will continue, and really did an unbelievable job in what's really an unprecedented situation that we face in the city of Lynn. It's funny, Dr. Tutwiler, I've used that and others have talked about flying while you're building the plane. At least we're in the air. So it is a challenging time, and if you think about what we face, and you look back over the last 100 years with so many really tough times that this country has faced, probably the one that really is reflective of what we're facing today is the 1918 flu epidemic that broke out in this country and spread around the world, and was really highly impacted the state of Massachusetts as well. We are in really uncharted territory, but as we're on our first remote school committee meeting, I'm not sure that it's ever happened before, but I want to thank everybody that's helped put this together. And I know that, and I said this publicly, we are a team, both the council, the school committee members, the school department, and everybody involved, including the families, the children, and the students that go to our schools, as well as the community at large. We are coming together. We're focused on working together to get through these challenging times, and the teamwork and the community feel that we have here in the city is unparalleled. So I want to thank everyone that is working with us to ensure that we come out better and stronger on the other end of this challenge. And I know all of us around this table and that are part of this the school system that we work so hard to make the best in the state will continue to work together as we move forward. So again, I want to thank everyone that's worked to get us to this point, and we'll face the tough decisions and the challenges over the next few weeks and months as we move ahead in uncharted territory. So with that, I'm happy to take questions, and if you're ready on the school committee side, unmute your phones, and I'll take you as you move forward. Member Satterwhite.
Thank you. Patrick, thank you for the update. I've heard many positive things from the community. The social media is definitely on point with Facebook and just having different projects that kids can continue to do outside of the work that's already on each individual school's website. I am being asked many questions about grades and what we're going to do about seniors and graduation.
So let me take the grades question first. We decided to, as everybody knows, the elementary schools are on a trimester, and secondary schools are on a 4-quarter system. The second trimester for elementary schools actually ended on March. The grades were supposed to close for that on March 20th. And grades for quarter 3 for secondary schools was set to close on April 3rd. We decided to close grades for the second trimester for elementary and quarter 3 for secondary on the last day that classes were in session on March 12th. Reason being, for elementary, it was a no-brainer. We're only 2 weeks away from the end of that trimester anyway. And for secondary, we're 3 weeks away from the end of the quarter. It made sense to stop right then because of the uncertainty about return. As it stands right now, we're actually not set to come back until after the quarter ends anyway. So what we've directed principals to do with their staff is to begin the process of assessing students for what they actually did, not for what they didn't do, and to give them every benefit in this scenario. This is a unique scenario. It's not happened, in my lifetime and probably the lifetime of many of the educators. And so we have to be creative. We have to be flexible, and that's how we're approaching this. As we look ahead to, things like graduation and those really important seminal events at the end of the school year, the class field trips, prom. I mean, all of those things are sort of being held in abeyance until we get more guidance from the state, first and foremost, about, what we're allowed to do, how large how large groups are that are allowed, that can convene in any given place. Is there going to be a removal of the guidance around out-of-state field trips as we think about some of the yearly field trips that happen for students? So we're pressing pause on those things. But as I mentioned in my opening comments, we've already tasked the principals to begin to think about and identify all of the different elements of the end of the school year, graduation, promotion, and start to make plans for how we can make concrete and clear a process for moving forward.
And last question, are your all calls only in English, or are you also sending those out in Spanish?
Great question, and I'm glad you asked that. So we use, and many districts use across the nation, use Blackboard Connect. It's a very sophisticated but user-friendly system. When I go in to make a call, it assigns the recipients of the call by whatever they've identified as the primary language spoken in the home. So I record the message for the English callers. I write a script for every all call that I do. And Guillermo Sinelli, who's at every school committee meeting, does the all call for the homes that have identified Spanish as the primary language being spoken at home. There are other languages, and I desperately want to reach them as well, but as you might imagine, the ability in a moment's time to have somebody available to translate and do those all calls is really, really challenging. So we get the primary languages spoken in the district, which are English and Spanish, on every all call.
Thank you.
Can I just point out, when I first started, I didn't know that it had the capability of assigning a different call based on language. So there used to be one really long message that started in English, and then Guillermo would go right after me and do it in Spanish. Now it's a much more respectful approach for families based on what they've identified as their primary language spoken at home.
Member Castellanos, and then Member Ford, and then Member.
Well, I just want to start by thanking everyone. It's been definitely it's an evolving situation that is causing a lot of fear and the unknown. Superintendent Tutwell, thank you for the communication your team's had on social media. It's been really helpful to direct the frequently asked question link that I have. It's been really useful and resourceful. Also, keeping the remote learning page updated daily. I really, it's very important. I've been having a lot of students and parents who actually are struggling to access computers and Wi-Fi, and in order to access those different programs online, what are we doing to address that? If we don't come back, how are we planning to increase that access for those students?
Yeah, great question, and thank you for that. So I will say first that when we canceled school on the 13th, the idea was to have teachers work in teams to develop content that would be posted on the website by school, by grade, by content, and then also create paper packets for families to retrieve. As I mentioned in the opening, rapidly evolving situation, right? We started off with a 2-week cancellation. Governor comes on 2 days later and says, actually, it's going to be 3 weeks for everybody. And so even though we've had plans to address lots of things, the evolving nature of the issue sort of makes those plans temporary at best. And so we, on last Monday, we opened the schools from 8 to 1 to offer families paper packets if they weren't able to access the material online. And we had a number of families show up, actually at some schools, very large groups showing up. And, for us, really the health and safety trumps the learning. And we didn't think that that approach was in keeping with the governor's, the State Department of the Board of Health's recommendations around groups of people convening in any given place. So we had to suspend the offering of the paper, which I know left some families feeling, confused and concerned. What is my kid going to do? What I will say is that you don't need a computer to do what's on the remote learning pages. As a matter of fact, I was out and about today and looking at an email on my phone. Someone was asking about access to the materials. I accessed, and actually this particular one was Pickering's online resources straight from my phone. So you don't actually need a device to complete or to engage with what's on the remote learning site. If you have a phone, then you can get to it. You can leverage it. And I know that there are some families that do not have, a phone with data on it, and so that creates a new challenge. I submit to you that in our planning for extended closure, we're coming up with plans so that everyone is able to access, whether you have a phone or a computer or an internet connection or not, the enrichment activities.
Yeah. Thank you, Superintendent.
My pleasure.
You're muted.
Member Ford, Member Nicholson, and then Member Gately.
Yeah, I'd like to just echo Patrick's words of praise for the school administration, the school department, and also the mayor's office. I think the transparency has been very good for everybody, and it cuts down a lot of the questions. I'd like to address this to Patrick. Would this be a too soon, or would it be a prudent time to maybe look to extending the shutdown in the schools to the week after school vacation? Would give people some time to make some plans. And I think coming back in the 7th may be too quick. I know that the president today just said he thinks everything's going to be fine by April 12th, but I wish I had the pills he's taking.
So we have consistently messaged to families that they should be prepared. Originally, we said be thinking about a child care scenario until April 17th. That message has now shifted to be prepared for child care through the month of April. And I will continue to message in that way so that families know that, hey, listen, the governor may have canceled school until April 6th, but there's a chance that this will go longer. And so, I think that's a conversation that I have with the mayor and with his knowledge about, what the Board of Health is saying about what would be safest and the best case scenario for staff and students. But I'm with you. I don't necessarily see this, I don't see this ending quickly. Certainly not in a week and a half or 2 weeks.
I think there's a lot of colleges already have canceled commencement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll add there are also a number of districts and some states that have gone ahead and canceled for the year. So, and I know, each situation is different and the context and the challenges are different, but I think people are starting to think about how can we proceed in a way that is safest for our community, and believe me, that is front of mind for us.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Member Nicholson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also just want to echo my colleagues.
Excuse me, Member Nicholson. We've lost at least the picture of Donna Capola, Member Capola. I don't know. Are you still on?
I'm still on. I have your pictures, and I just unmuted my mic so I can ask a question. Yeah.
Okay.
Here she is.
Okay, I see you over there. I'm gonna go to Member Nicholson, Member Gately, then I'll go to you. So I do see you now in the corner. Thank you. The corner of my screen. Go ahead, Member Nixon.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I just want to echo my colleagues and thank everyone for their really amazing work in these unprecedented times. Dr. Tutwiler and his team, the administration, all the teachers and staff throughout the district that have really done everything they can to manage these circumstances, and particularly impressed in the way we've been able to meet basic needs and setting up the grab and go program as quickly as we can. And really appreciate everyone's hard work on that, and obviously to the parents and families that we have and community members who have are now managing their children through these incredibly difficult times. We know this is hard, and we appreciate what you're doing. And I also want to thank the mayor's office for the leadership that we've gotten. It's been really helpful, and I echo what my colleagues said. To appreciate the transparency and the information has been great. The question I wanted to ask, going off of what Member Castellanos raised about the technology, is there a way, some of the long-term planning, Dr. Tutwiler, that you mentioned, is there a way for us to get more sort of comprehensive data about what the size of the gap is? I know we've seen other districts looking to creative ways to finance or acquire technology to close that gap. Is there a way for us? Have we started thinking about ways that we can understand what the need is? How many families we're talking about that aren't able to access the materials online?
I mean, so the quickest way would be a survey, right? But that would require, I mean, immediately you put, there's issues with that, because if you're doing a survey online and families don't have access, have an internet connected device or internet service in their home, you're not going to learn, about their needs. I will say that one school did do a quick survey that's classical through their student management system about, asking how many families or which families needed support or did not have a connection or an internet connected device at home. And the overwhelming majority indicated that they both had a device and internet service at home. I think it was somewhere in the order of 93%. And there were, about 600, maybe about a third of the school that responded. So statistically, you could say that that's significant. But in this environment and where we are right now, it would be hard. I think it would be a worthy endeavor, but I think it would be hard to get really a thorough response. So, that's something to think about. I think perhaps the biggest issue, and I'm aware of certain districts, some that are, around our size, Lawrence, some that are much bigger, Boston, that have, sort of quickly purchased and distributed Chromebooks to students. And in Boston, it was every student. It wasn't, sort of like who needs one. It's just like anybody who wants one can come get one. And I'm not quite sure what happened in Lawrence, but I know that they leveraged about 10,000 of them. I'd say my only concern with proceeding in that way is, I think there's a way to establish enrichment activities and connections with students without going that route. And B, typically in that scenario, there's one guarantee, and that guarantee is that every staff member has an internet connected device with the appropriate tools. We don't have that. So it would be hard. I can't say that with all, with 100% certainty that every staff member has an internet connected device with the appropriate tools. So, in a scenario where we, moved quickly, let's say found a grant or, had the available funds to purchase a large number of Chromebooks and distributed them, I wouldn't be able to guarantee you that faculty would be able to connect with them meaningfully the way that one would expect giving out all that, giving out that technology. Typically, in a scenario where, a technology-rich district, you start with the staff first, having the tools and having the know-how, and then you bring the students into that learning scenario. This would be sort of a backwards one that I would have lots of concerns about working effectively. So right now we're really pivoting to, how can we make thoughtful, meaningful learning experiences that can be accessed by everyone without necessarily needing a device.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I mean, I think I'd ask the same question about what the gap would be for the size of the faculty, and if there's a way for us to collectively get that data to start to think about how we could meet that gap. Totally appreciate your thoughtful approach to that, and look forward to more to come on that. The other question I had, one of the things we're missing out on among the many things is the students who are at their transition points, particularly in the secondary level, high school juniors and seniors, advising about their next steps into the trades, into the military, into colleges. Is there, particularly if we're expecting the closure to start extending, what kind of planning is coming into discussion about how to reach those students and connect them with those kinds of resources that would provide them with advice about how to prepare themselves for their next?
That's a great question. Thank you. So my team has been meeting on Zoom thus far this week. And this is kind of what I was alluding to in the opening. We're beginning to build a framework that would outline really specific activities tied to specific professionals in the district that we would want to see happen in the event of an extended closure. So, this is going to involve, conversation with union presidents and things of that nature. But I think I can say with confidence now that what you present is absolutely front of mind for us, in our planning for next steps. I mean, I really feel like, I'm just thinking about a conversation I had with the mayor. I think this was on the 12th. Things moved so quickly. We went from, a one-day cancellation on the 13th for students to, a 2-week cancellation to on that Sunday, a 3-week cancellation. And so, we've been in triage mode, just trying to make sure that, sort of as you said, the basic needs are being met. Like, do families have access to food? Yes, we've got something going there. And there are many other things going on in the city. Do families have resources around mental health? Yes, we've set something up and calls are being made. And so our next step, we're starting to emerge from the triage stage into really thoughtful planning about how to meet students' needs and make this, especially for students who are transitioning, moving on to the next steps in their lives, or moving on from high school to middle school, right? You think about all the things that happen in the spring around that transition and going over and visiting the school and setting up classes. We're starting now to build plans around that in the event that we don't come back. So absolutely, that is front of mind.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next member, Gailey.
First, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for inviting us to the council meeting so we could hear firsthand right away what was going on in this emergency. So thank you. Dr. Tutwiler, I just want you to know that I have heard from many faculty over this time, and they were all very, very impressed with the amount of time that was allotted to them to make out plans, to work together collaboratively and get out some wonderful plans, pull them all together. And they were very happy about that. So I want kudos to you and your staff for that. I was also very impressed how quickly people knew where to get their food, how to get their food. You took care of all of their needs. The only thing that I was going to inquire about is one teacher and then two others were asking me, like, genuinely concerned, because when you're a teacher at St. Mary's, I can use Zoom. I get emails every day from my students telling me what work they have done, what work they didn't get done, they get done. And they're missing that connection, some of these teachers. In the elementary, they can't really get a feel. They want to just get a feel for how their students are doing. Are they getting the material? Are they understanding how they're doing, throughout this whole travesty virus? So I was wondering if you have any plans for us to be able to get on a Zoom, the staff, to get on, teachers, to get on Zoom, to have a class with their class so they can see how their students are doing. I didn't know if that was anywhere, if you were thinking about it, discussing it with Ken and Deb, I don't know. That's my question. Anything happening with that?
Yeah, so that's part of the, I mentioned in the outset that we very quickly set up a protocol and a script for special education liaisons, reaching out to those families, checking in, making sure they knew where the resources were, and if they needed any help with strategies to meet those students' needs. What we're working on now is something more substantive for broader outreach. But we really want to make sure, rather than, and I don't think you're suggesting this, but rather than just sort of tossing something out willy-nilly, we really want to make sure that it's structured and uniform across the district. And we want to make sure that we turn every stone. I mean, there are, whether it's contacting homes, telephonically, a number of the homes, a good number of our homes are ones wherein English is not the first language. We need to set up a mechanism where there are, translator partners so that we're able to reach those families and check in also. My quick answer is yes. I can't say definitively that it will be Zoom. I will tell you that a number of teachers have already started doing that. I encourage it and I support it 100%. But what we're working on is a district plan around this that will have some expectations. So quick answer is yes. Want to make sure that it is thoughtful and thorough and that there's equity in it, right? That every student has the opportunity to connect with a teacher. And so that is forthcoming, but we just want to make sure that it's on point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Pat, can I add to that?
Please.
A couple of things. One, as Dr. Tutwiler said, a number of teachers are reaching out to their students via email, via phone calls. Some are using Zoom. So there are a lot of that going on. As Dr. Tutwiler said, we're trying to unify it a little bit, which is what our planning is all about. And to answer Jared's question around the seniors and connecting to their next phase, I have been in conversations with the principals of the high schools who have also been in conversations with the guidance departments, both at the middle school and the high school level, and they are currently working on that. I have a Zoom conference call that will happen probably next week to touch base with them on where are they at and what are their needs for next steps.
Thank you. Next, Member Capola.
Okay. I appreciate being last. I think I'm last only because a lot of questions I had got answered, so that's helpful. But I do want to thank the teachers.
Sorry, we lost you, and then I lost you on the screen, so apologize for getting to you last, but this is new for me as well, so thanks for your patience.
That's all right. I appreciate being last because a lot of questions got eliminated, but I do want to thank the teachers and the staff because a lot of people have complimented. A lot of the teachers have gone on, done story times that we've seen, science projects. And I think my husband, Harry, has been the best one for watching all of them. So that's a good thing. And thank the cafeteria workers for getting the food out. But I'll give you what the questions are, Dr. Tutwiler, and then you can just answer them. But are we using, are the principals using the all-calls to stay in touch with the families, especially the ones that are our at-risk students, not just the mental health, but are at risk? I think the principals would probably know those families the best. And, just wondering, are we staying in touch? So, by the time they come back, there isn't a disaster that happens amongst our at-risk students. The other thing, another question was, how many meals are we up to? And that's the question.
Okay. So, and thank you. Great question about students that we're concerned about. I can tell you at FECTO and Fallon, they've come up with a really robust plan for outreach. I'll also shout them out as I think I communicated in writing. Though the FECTO staff on that Friday, the 13th, hand-delivered packets to all of the students who attend that school, and also made sure that they had contact information if they had questions or concerns, phone numbers to local mental health supports if there was an emergency, email addresses for contacts at the school in the event that there was a concern or a challenge. And same thing at Fallon, they actually mailed theirs on that Friday. And I think even Deb was involved with hand delivering some of those packets as well. Not just the academic stuff, but also the resources, how to be in touch. And then they've been actively reaching out as well. Beyond that, as I had mentioned earlier, special ed has been reaching out, but also guidance at the secondary level, uber aware of the students who are struggling or would be struggling in a scenario like this. I mean, this is scary for a lot of young people and uncertain and out of their routine. And so there is outreach to those families to make sure that they have strategies and know where the resources are in the event that things worsen. As far as meals, I will tell you that it started slow on the Monday and Tuesday of last week, but it's progressively ramped up. We started off with 375, 400, 450. Last Friday, we gave out 1,000 meals. Some of that is due to the students or the families that took advantage of the meals, the 2 additional meals for the Saturday and Sunday. And I know that yesterday we were around 500. Today we're around 600. I see those numbers sort of inching up, and I think they're going to continue to. The cafeterias, and thank you for shouting out the cafeteria staff. They've been awesome. And someone who's completely unconnected to the city of Lynn and unconnected to the district sent me a screenshot of families talking about the cafeteria staff and how helpful and delightful they've been. And, for once, no disrespect, Kevin McHugh, but actually celebrating the quality of the meals that they were receiving with fruits and vegetables and yogurt. And so I think that operation is going really, really well. It's one of a number of food stability operations around the city. But, as I said, the numbers are starting to inch up. Again, we're at 600, a little more than 600 today. So.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Member Capola. Member Sadowite?
I know Brian had a question, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. Member Castellanos, then we'll go to Member Sadowite.
Yeah, so Member Capola kind of briefly touched this a little bit about at-risk students, and I know we early on we discussed there was an outreach protocol for an SEL framework that's being developed. Could you just tell us a little bit more about what that framework looks like? And I heard Fallon and Fecto, but what are some of the other some of these students that are at risk are enrolled in SEL programming? What are we doing? What are the social workers doing? What's mental health doing? Like, what are some of the on the ground operations at this moment during this time?
Yeah, so we're really sort of challenged by this, right? Because there's not the most that we can do is phone check-ins, right? The most that we can do is outreach.
Okay.
The most that we can do is outreach to those families to check in on those students. Short of face-to-face, which would be ideal, but discouraged in this kind of scenario. I can't offer you specifics on what that script looks like. I can email you the script that the special ed teachers are using to sort of walk families through the access to resources. But in terms of at risk, it's just a check-in at this point. That's one of the things that we're working on, becoming tighter and more uniform across the district.
And for the script, yeah, that would be great to just so we can share those resources, because that's what I find myself connecting with all levels of constituents, and it's very helpful. A lot of us have been using social media to share information. Just want to make sure it's the right information. So that would be really helpful. Accuracy is so key. Again, going back to that frequently asked question, link has been vital. I appreciate the current updates on it as well. So thank you, Superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Member Sadowite?
Thank you. And Dan, I think we can hear you if you can put your computer on mute. Patrick, there are three things I want to just talk about. One of them is I spoke to a grandmother who is the custodial parent for her granddaughter, and during this time, it's been very difficult for her. And I was happy to see that on the Marshall Middle School page that they also had information for mental health and psychologists at the Lynn Community Health Center. So I was able to share that information with her because I guess her granddaughter had run away because the mom came to the house, and it just caused a lot of drama for the family. But I just, all I could do was comfort her and give her information, but I'm glad it was readily available and that I didn't have to look far to get that. And I'm sure other families are seeing that information on there as well. I'd like all of the schools' web pages to have that information just for cases of emergencies like that. The other thing I have is we've had many things in the works throughout the school year, and we also have the district strategic plan. Is this putting a hold on what we have in the works for next school year or for the next couple of years?
So let me first address the first question or the first comment about the Marshall Middle School and the available resources. That is actually also on the homepage in English and Spanish, and it's living in the frequently asked questions document as well. But I thought that was the plan. I'm surprised to learn that it's not on every page, but I will check in with that with the webmaster on that. As far as plans for next year goes, it's a little hard to. We're pretty much all eyes on the ball, which is sort of trying to support families with this right now, and it is a 24/7, lots of energy and attention to this. We haven't. I mean, one of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of continue the action plan and to see what's possible in terms of planning for next year. But I think, at least for the foreseeable future, our primary concern is, making sure that all the stones are turned, that families are supported, students are able to transition effectively and smoothly. So I mean, I haven't done a full-on assessment of like what can't happen and what will happen. But certainly as the weeks move forward, I probably will be able to do that.
And just to be sure, you told Brian that all students that are on an IEP have been reached out to, or a teacher or someone in the SPED department is still focusing on those students and their needs?
I can't say definitively that 100% of them have been reached by this point, but that is the goal. So that process has begun. I don't know. I can't say that. I can ask the SPED director where we are in terms of that, but that's the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Nicholson?
Thank you, Mayor. I had another comment along the lines of the family support. I echo my colleagues and really find the handouts that you guys have published to be extremely helpful, and glad to see the school department working through what you mentioned in the hierarchy of needs and setting up the meal program, looking at mental health. I think one of the things that we're going to see, and we're starting to see already, is that the impact of this crisis is very quickly moving to the economic and job fallout as people aren't able to work. And I think there will be a lot of people thinking about this and looking at it, and I'm sure people from the city already, and certainly from around the state. But I would if it's possible for us to put together handouts like that on the changes to unemployment filing, or some of the resources that are becoming.
Some of it, yeah, I'll just.
Some of the resources that are becoming available on that side of things, in the format that you mentioned, the format that you did for the mental health, and particularly when it comes to the grab and go centers. I mean, we've set up these touch points to reach the families in our city that some of the families in our city that are most vulnerable, that could particularly benefit from that kind of information.
I think that's an excellent idea. Absolutely.
Thank you, Member Nicholson. Are there any other comments or questions related to this agenda item? I just want to, and if there isn't, I just want to let the school committee know, and I know we've talked about this a bit. We're talking about, obviously, information to the families and students and working through the administration. It's been a great discussion. But just as importantly, and I want to thank you all for sharing the information that we continue to put out through my office, to the city, through the council, but it really is a team, and I want to thank you for sharing that information. I'm on daily calls with many mayors, different groups of mayors from around the Commonwealth, with the lieutenant governor, with the governor, with members of the congressional delegation and others. So we're all continuing to be in close contact on Zoom and through phone calls and other remote opportunities to have discussions related to this ongoing situation. So we are evaluating where we go from here, and taking each community and how they're working, and we're really working together as well as a state. So I just want to lay that out there, so it's not just all of us in the city, but we are working really collaboratively as leaders in the region and really leaders around the state, dealing with similar, if not the same type of situation. So we'll continue to evaluate what's going on as we move forward. And again, every day is an evolving. This is an evolving situation. So we're going to continue to focus on it and make the right decisions based on the best information we have, as well as collaboration both in the city and beyond. So I just wanted to let all of you know that's what's going on. And if we're ready to go to the second agenda item, it's ratification of, and I think you've all received the document, ratification of actions that I would take in regard to communications with the school,
Tom,
with the school union presidents. Member Satterwhite? I see that you, Member Satterwhite?
I just wanted to thank Mary for keeping us updated on everything. I know that we just thanked the administration, but with the information coming so quickly and it coming from many different avenues, I'm happy that on a daily basis we're brought up to date, whether it's school related or city related. I know that you issue some press releases, and it's we get them when you issue them. So we're also informed with regards to what's going on the city side. Mary, you're doing a wonderful job. I appreciate all that you do. And I just wanted to put that out there. It's a hard job, especially in a situation like this, when there's so many things going on and so many different people in so many different places. And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Satterwhite, and I'm sure all the members of the committee feel the same way. Mary, thank you for the work you're doing, helping us get through this. Like I said earlier, it doesn't happen unless we're all working on it together, so thank you. And as I said, next on the, I'm going to just read a little bit of this. Hopefully everyone's received this. I'll read just kind of the lead in. This is being a request to send this off to the presidents of the unions and look for their input. And I'll read the beginning pieces of it, and then we can have discussions on it. But I'm looking for support to move this forward, particularly in these times we're facing. It's dated March 20th, 2020. As you know, the entire nation is trying to cope with the coronavirus pandemic. Pursuant to Chapter 639 of the Acts of 1950, the Civil Defense Act, and the trust and powers imposed in me as the mayor of the city of Lynn, I propose implementing the below actions to protect the public health and safety, and I welcome the union's input. Given the urgency occasioned by this fast-growing pandemic, time is of the essence. I ask the presidents of each above-listed union contact the personnel director if they need to meet and discuss the below-listed actions before these recommendations are implemented. Again, we're looking forward to working closely with the union presidents. This is some recommendations through this, and if there are any issues that they need to direct, we will work closely with them both as my office and members of the committee, as well as the superintendent's office working through this. So I don't know if there's discussion, if people had a chance to review this. This is a proposal that we made to all the city side unions. I had a chance to meet with all of the union presidents. It seems like about a month ago, but it was probably a week and a half ago. It was a very, very positive meeting, and I want to thank them all for their willingness to meet and talk about this and recognizing that we're all facing challenge together. So we submitted this to all the city unions on the city side, and we're doing the same thing on the school side at this point. So looking for support from the committee to approve this and send it off to the presidents of the union. And again, if there's questions or concerns or anything that they would like to talk to, that is what we're looking to do. So, that, Member Satterwhite, I see you have a question or comments.
No question or comment. I just wanted to put forward a motion to approve you sending out the document to the union.
Second.
Is there a second? The second?
Second.
Any other discussion? I see a number of seconds. If no discussion, it requires a roll call vote. Mary, I think you're muted.
Frank Hatsianos.
Yes.
Donna Capola.
Yeah.
John Ford.
Yes.
Lorraine Gately.
Yes.
Jared Nicholson.
Yes.
Michael Satterwhite.
Yes.
Mayor McGee.
Yes. And I want to thank you all for supporting this. And like I said, look forward to working closely with all the members, the employees, and the unions. We're all working in the same direction. I want to thank them for their support, their work, and all that they do to make the schools and the system work in a great way. So That is the only two pieces of information, or two agenda items that we have tonight. And I think the final piece of the meeting will be communication and information from the superintendent. Dr. Tutwiler, looking for you to, well, I think you pretty much have kind of laid it out. So if you want to add anything else before we move on, I know you made a pretty good presentation before the meeting, but if you have some other information or you feel like we've covered it all, we're ready to go in either direction.
Nothing to add, Mayor.
Great. Member Nicholson?
I just want to add, I just wanted to thank Don Hussey for helping us set up with Lynn Community Television and coming in and making this all work. So thank you, Don.
I would second that, and I have to say, for the first time for all of us, this has been an experience, but it was well done, and everybody that worked to put this together. I know, Jared, you were also helpful. Dawn was great. Robin Ennis from my staff, Mary Jules, and all of the superintendent and all the staff really helped, get this off, and hopefully the public had a chance to follow this meeting. It's a little unique. It will be on cable, but I think it reflects the great work we do together in good times and in bad times. We've really had a lot of good things going on, and that will continue. So I want to thank everyone for this new world we're in technology and a remote meeting, and I look forward to working together with all of you as we address the issues for the schools and the issues for the city. Thank you all, and if there's, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Just a quick question, Tom.
Member Satterwhite, yep. Yes, please.
In this time of uncertainty, should people rely on the posted future school committee meetings, or will they continue to be emergency meetings?
That's a great question. I think we added the agenda item from Thursday night, so I think we've had our meeting for the week, so there's no need for having Thursday's meeting, so that will be canceled. We will be in touch, and I think the positive thing from tonight was I think we weren't sure. We haven't really ever tested the remote kind of meeting like this, so we will. It shows us that we can get some things done. As items come up, I will be in touch with the committee over the next few days to determine what the next direction is. But Thursday night will be canceled. But again, we addressed, I think, the agenda items of importance, and all of the questions that were asked, I think, really answered many, if not all, the questions of the parents and the families. But we'll continue to get that information out. I know the superintendent and his whole staff will do that, and we'll be in touch about next steps for a meeting. So we will. We'll review that and make those decisions over the next few days. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn for a second. All those in favor?
We can't even see Kim anymore.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Again, thank you all very much, and look forward to talking to you. Have a good night. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
You're welcome.
Good night.